Welcome everyone to our CC Youth Tube show.
We're back. Better than ever, hopefully, Lord willing.
There's this light. This light here is an issue, and when it's on, it gives Jonah this shadow on his face that.
She says I look like Jim Carrey, and I don't know if that's an insult or a compliment, so I'm going to need to pray about it.
Because you were acting like him, and I'm trying. You're asking me when you
Comment down below. Am I Jim Carrey, but worse or better?
Well, I was saying his jawline. You could see the jawline with the way the light was going.
And then he said something. He made some sort of impression that sounded like Jim Carrey, but I'm trying to place him. It might have been the Grinch, but I was thinking it was like Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Pet Detective.
Yes, that one.
Something like that.
And I was kind of embarrassed that I know that reference, but anyway.
Anyways, it's a great movie that you probably shouldn't watch, but if you do, let me know so we can joke about it. But anyways, welcome to part 2 of our little mini series of interviewing.
Hey, we're not recommending zombie movies.
I mean, we kind of are, but we aren't. Ask your parents.
I'm not going to watch zombie movies.
I don't like zombie movies, but if you want to watch zombie movies to kind of catch up on what Greg was saying back in part uno of this little series, that's your choice. I'm a giant man baby and I don't like zombie movies, so I probably won't. But so we're continuing today, and today's episode we are continuing with the interview with Greg. This time around we are talking about, we talk about the significance of having God be the one that makes us better and not us being the one that makes us better. So we'll talk a little bit about some perspectives you can take on human nature, and it should be good, so enjoy. And I've been taught, and I think it makes sense to me, to hold the picture that if you get your view of mankind right, other things are going to fall into place. And I hold the perspective that man is inherently flawed, and that on his own, man will not be able to do things perfectly. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good place to start. I've got a lot of thoughts right now. Let's see if I can put them together into anything that's coherent. And again, as much as possible, and keep me accountable to this from a first-person perspective, right? So the scriptures teach, number one, that people aren't as bad as they could be, right? We know a lot of people who are wonderful and do a lot of good things. So what I don't want to do is paint this picture like everybody's wicked and evil and does horrible stuff all the time. Except on a heart level, as it concerns our righteousness, the Bible basically says that we can't earn God's favor through attempts at our own holiness. We need help, we need a Savior. And what's so amazing about, I think, the Bible's teaching on man is that it doesn't start with the fall. It doesn't start with brokenness. It doesn't start with human problems and suffering and depravity. It actually starts with creation. So you have all these other worldviews, and to the Enlightenment idea that we're a blank slate, or man is merely rational and he can overcome his errors and his flaws with more rationality and more work on the mind and logic, or whatever those theories were. Then you get guys who come in like one of my favorites, Friedrich Nietzsche, who just call the bluff on everybody. And in his wonderful little book, The Twilight of Idols, Nietzsche talks about how really that's all just a smokescreen, because it really all just boils down to power. I mean, if you're nothing more than an animal, with appetites, even if you feel like you should control those appetites for logical reasons, which would have been the ancient Greek ideal, control your appetites, move toward virtue. But Nietzsche says, why? Really, it's about power and pleasure. Because that's what it is at the end of the day. You're born into a world of suffering and you need to get yours and work hard. And I think a lot of that, in our day and age has been exemplified in just the whole Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, social media culture. People are hurting, they're needy, they have baggage. They know in their own souls that they're made to be loved and to be fully known and fully loved. But they've got anger, they've got shame. But instead of dealing with any of that, the real hard issues, it's just look at this happy selfie. I'm great. And I can create this false persona. Just we live in this weird avatar world. We used to make fun of the nerds who would play their weird, or Dwight in The Office who played his weird Second Life video game. I was like, oh, what a nerd. He has this fake life, sim Sim City, and it's like, but that's how so many of us live now because we're afraid of confronting what's really there. And I think we should be afraid on Nietzsche's view, on the view of you're nothing more than, a glorified beast, basically. So, a very intelligent beast, but one who still ultimately desires nothing more than power and pleasure, so go after that. That's a really scary way to think about what humans actually are. And that is kind of a Walking Dead world in the later seasons, I guess. But the Bible starts with creation. So the Bible starts with man and women are created, they're beautiful, they work together, they're partners, they are equal in the image of God that they bear, knowledge, righteousness, and holiness. They're equal in dignity. They may have distinct roles and distinct, biological functions to some extent, but they're really this like powerhouse team that's meant to like be glorious and beautiful for what, not only for who they are before God in worship, but who they are together connected and who they are now for the world, right? Take the garden and make it beautiful. So the Bible really starts the discussion about human nature with creation. That man was created in God's image and it is good. Right? Not that man is an animal, not that man is a blank slate, not that certain people are just born in certain places, so too bad. Sorry, we know that right now in the world there are more, if you define slavery broadly, economic slavery and sexual slavery, there's more slaves in the world right now than there's ever been at any point in human history. Like, how is it possible that we have all this technology, all this food, all this ability to solve all these problems, and yet, right? But if people are just beasts, or, for example, and I don't want to paint with too wide a brush, but in some of the Eastern religions, like if you're born into a certain lower sphere or a lower caste, like, stinks to be you, man. Like, bummer. The world is red in tooth and claw. Like, sorry, I don't know. Maybe next time you'll be like born better, or next time you'll be born up the chain, or
do like something to get born a little higher next time.
Exactly. As we talked about on Sunday, maybe you're born into brokenness and poverty, and the world is suffering. So, what you need to do is just never cease striving to empty yourself and move away from the pain, move away from the suffering. I've told this story before, but I was with Caitlin in Argentina. We were walking along the coast with this friend of ours. You guys remember this one? And it was a friend of ours, and I really love and respect this young lady, so I'm not trying to say anything negative about her, but it was like this clash of worldviews. And this lady comes up to us as we're walking along the beach, basically, and, will you buy some of my stuff? This is all in Spanish. And the friend of ours who lived in Argentina turned around and like, no, thank you, we don't want to buy any of that. She kept following us. Again, please buy. She's getting louder, she's getting angrier. The friend turns around again, no, we don't want to buy any of that stuff. Finally, she starts screaming at us, and she's, cussing us out in Spanish, all kinds of words that I can't say right now, because somebody who's going to watch this thing speaks some Spanish. And, it was kind of like this weird, intense, heated, angry, like traumatic deal. And eventually we just said we were sorry and walked away. And as we're walking away, this friend of ours starts like doing this, deep breathing. She's like, doing this thing, holding her crystal, busting out her horoscope, just like doing this. And I looked at her, I was like, what the heck are you doing? And she goes, I've got to push that energy away. I have to push that negative energy away. Because life is suffering, but I can't let it affect me and my aura and my energy. I just push it away. And I said, and that's the difference. That's the difference. Because truly, like, if this is the only life that you get and this is it, absolutely. Don't let people's brokenness affect you. Push it away so you can maintain your, glorious equilibrium or whatever. And
make sure I'm okay.
Hug your crystal and protect yourself. Exactly. And I said, the difference, though, is what Jesus does and what Jesus teaches is rather than push the negativity away, you walk toward it. And you enter into it. And you put on flesh in it. And you stoop down and you get low. You take off your robe. You wash those feet. You move toward the brokenness. And that's why, at least historically, look, don't get me wrong, the church in the last 2,000 years has done a lot of bad stuff. But historically, the church has done more for schools, hospitals, the movement forward of scientific inquiry and study, than any other institution in the history of mankind. And that's a really bold claim, so Google it and fact check it, and we can talk about that in another episode.
Heck yeah.
But one of the early church fathers said, when you go to plant churches, you do three things. You plant a church, which is a community where broken people can come with their broken human nature, be reminded of creation and redeemed toward creation through the new creation, Jesus Christ. And then as that happens, as the new creation is overflowing from the new human nature and reality that's given to you through Jesus and his life and his death and his resurrection, now go out and do that in the world. So do two things. Start schools, start churches. And so that's where the Bible moves us from what we had in creation and we know we long for. Right? Adam and Eve, as they're under the weight of the curse, what does the Bible say? It says they're naked and they're ashamed. Can no longer be fully known and fully loved. I have to hide. And that's what every attempt to grapple with human nature outside of the grace of God and the gospel is. It's really just a Band-Aid on a flesh wound. It's an attempt to hide. So the Bible is really honest about how we were made. It's also very honest about our problem, that we can't fix ourselves, that we are broken, that it's not getting our circumstances right or changing our behavior, having more money or more education, or somehow welling it up from within inside of you, reading the right self-help books or going to the right self-help guru. And by the way, a lot of people, and unfortunately sometimes people who call themselves Christians, make a lot of money selling people this lie, that it's in you, Here's this book, The Secret. If you just read it and you get this secret knowledge, we call this Gnosticism, you'll know the real secret reality. Christianity says that's not true at all. There's no secret. Everything that happened to Jesus happened in public. It was all public for all eyes to see. And there's no secret knowledge at all, because you can't well up from within inside of yourself the change that you need. It has to come from outside of you. So your faith isn't in yourself. Your faith is in the object of your faith who's already done the work, and now by his Spirit, empowers you to live into that, which is why we talk about as the church being a part of the new creation, bringing back the reality of the garden to bear. So Christians aren't perfect. Churches are messy. I'll just tell you guys, when you come to church is full of what? People. Broken people. In fact, churches attract the weirdest kind of people. Look at what you have before you right now, except for Jennifer. But the beauty of what the church is that it's cultivating a now and not yet garden of Eden. A place where people who are naked and ashamed can come and be fully known and fully loved, and then take that back out into the world and push back against the ravages of sin in our human nature. So do we want education? Yes. Do we want more food? Yes. Do we need political reform? Yes. Do we need to end the violence? Yes. Do we need to end racism? Of course, all that stuff. But the only way that that's going to happen is if we know who we are, if we know what's broken within us, and if we know the only thing that can really save us. So, some thoughts.
Perfect. You literally answered questions that I was going to ask already.
That's great.
Uncle Greg talks too much.
Uncle Greg says exactly what needs to be said.
Uncle Rico.
Good old Greg.
Old Greg.
Drink Baileys from shoe. Something like that,
Virgin Baileys.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Gotcha. Well, yeehaw, that was exciting.
This is really good stuff. Really important.
Your view on man matters.
Yeah.
And I said it before, and I'll say it again. I think if you can get your view on humanity right, then everything else falls into place pretty well.
That's what your omnibus teacher used to say, Bruce Etter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good old Brucey boy. Shout out. So we're going to wrap this up, and we'll see you next time for part 3. Catch you later.